Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Now, obviously there's been a bit of discussion about 4680 software upgrades that unlock more range. We've heard 4680 Model Y owners say they expect range upgrades to be offered, and others who claim insiders say there will be no range upgrade. Also, not all the numbers add up quite right yet. Either way, I think you can be forgiven for believing either is a possibility still. However, despite where your opinion may sit on whether Tesla may offer these upgrades now, it's always possible they may offer them in the future. Now, one possibility is that the cell-to-vehicle pack requires a minimum of 828 cells for its structure. Eventually, Tesla's chemistry in the jelly roll will become so energy dense they will end up being mid to high 300s in range from these Model Ys in Austin. And this will be even if the 4680 eventually moved to a slightly less energy dense manganese cathode, because of having a minimum of 820 cells in the pack. Do you see? Tesla have to eventually have a 4680 Model Y with a range that exceeds the existing long range, and eventually the price point would get too high for equivalent value. Tesla's 4680 cells are simply too good. They offer more value than the market can afford. If this is the case, then Tesla can limit the specifications with software in order to make versions that more people are able to afford. The thing is, despite this tremendous added value, it is done at a reduced cost, with Tesla's faster, improved production lines and techniques, accompanied by the industry's lowest cost EV cell. Tesla have made a lower cost, higher value vehicle. This is what every company aspires to make, an improved version that more people want and are willing to pay more that costs less to make. However, this isn't an Apple iPhone or even an Apple Mac, i.e. products that just about literally anyone can afford if they really wanted them and made the sacrifices. No, these are cars which are the most expensive consumer item the vast majority of people buy. Therefore, as high as desire may be for some, it will come down to affordability for many. Okay, so Tesla may have made cars that are too good, that everyone wants and not enough people can afford. They missed their market. This missed the market clearing price. Supply and demand will not meet, and that will be one of the hurdles Tesla will have to face for some time, trying to match supply and demand with a lot of variable product pricing. If Tesla had the full product that could be limited with software, this might become a major solution for Tesla's pricing model to fit in with their lack of supply relative demand. Tesla have two variables, value and cost. Tesla can add value to the product by increasing range, and Tesla can adjust the price accordingly to meet market demand. In fact, depending on times in the economy or different times demand may fluctuate, Tesla could simply adjust their entry-level pricing. So if Tesla's demand is getting really high, then Tesla would simply stop offering the 280-mile version at $60,000 and software lock the cars with 300 miles, except the car is now $65,000. This way, when Tesla raise their prices, like they have in the past, to adjust for demand, well now when they do it, there is extra value added into it too. This should keep consumers happier, as in effect the price of the vehicle is now static. It is the entry-level amount of range that is the variable. For most consumers, the important part is getting a Tesla, not a car that necessarily has 350 miles of range. 280 miles in a Tesla is still pretty practical for most people, and of course they can always upgrade it later if it's not. Unlike some other car that you might buy and discover it doesn't have enough range, you're stuck with it or have to likely sell it at a loss. If you buy this Tesla and have buyer's remorse because it's not quite the car you wanted, then you can just upgrade it when you can afford it. Besides, even 280 miles of range is an impressive figure for a crossover anyway. There isn't really anyone else who can hit that level, except the upgraded Mach-E, which they couldn't make profitably. Yeah, that's something we always need to remind ourselves, especially when anyone ever talks about the competition. So what about the competition? I could personally design a car with an even higher spec than the Mustang Mach-E that also lost money on every sale. None of the competition are selling at a profit. I've even been hitting up the BYD shills on Twitter. None of them can prove BYD makes a profit with their BEV business. I even had a genuine chat to some of them. So just remember that Tesla is the only BEV manufacturer to make a net profit. Not only that, almost all the others selling their EVs at a loss are doing so with subsidies. Sorry, I digressed there. I just don't feel this is understood enough. And yes, that does include Hyundai too. Okay, so Tesla can get more sales by initially lowering the price, limiting the product, and the customer can unlock the product to its full potential when they can afford to, if they so choose. In the meantime though, Tesla offers software upgrades already. You can obviously order FSD, and when you look into FSD subscription numbers, then the numbers get nutty, even without robotaxis. It's easy to see that over the lifetime of the vehicle, there is more income potential with FSD subscription compared to the actual profit in selling the vehicle initially. Having such variable pricing with a variable product is going to make going forward so much easier, especially in such a new industry with a lot of potential volatility ahead. This gives Tesla even more protection or an even larger buffer to get through any potential tumultuous times. And then compare that to the competition. I'm honestly not intentionally picking on the competition. I use them for a comparison to show how far ahead Tesla is. So all the competition lose money on their cars, meaning they have no buffer of any sort whatsoever, not to mention a lot of them have a ton of debt, whereas Tesla has 3 buffers for demand. Firstly, Tesla is limiting the capabilities of their product with software locking. We even know they're doing this right now with the Austin Model Y. Tesla offered an acceleration upgrade temporarily. Tesla limited the value of the product with software because they knew there'd be enough demand for the regular acceleration as it was. If Tesla offered the full acceleration as standard, then it would increase demand slightly higher. Tesla have massive margins. Obviously, Tesla could reduce their margins and increase demand through that. If Tesla reduced their margins, it would in turn reduce prices, then prices are lower, demand climbs. And thirdly, Tesla has its long waiting list for vehicles. This is a buffer for demand. If Tesla's demand starts to drop, then they'll still sell just as many vehicles. It just means the customers receive them earlier now. Tesla's waiting list is simply more stored demand. Now, hang on, wouldn't it be a waste having these additional cells in the car that aren't even being used to run the car? For starters, remember, the cells are in there to support the vehicle. They are structural and required. As for dummy cells, we've discussed this in the past, and they still have to be manufactured and would likely add to complexity on the line. But for a 280-mile range Model Y, you might only need a 60 kilowatt-hour battery when Tesla's 4680 cells have evolved. That could likely be achieved with just 621 cells, an additional unnecessary 200 or so cells, doing nothing aside from supporting the structure. Is that a waste of money? We're already adding in an additional 33% of cells in there, or about 200. Well, if it was $100 per kilowatt hour for the cells, that would have cost an additional $2,000 to add in those extra cells. By the way, 4680 cells should end up costing quite a bit less than that, excluding inflation. Still, even if we use that $2,000 figure, we can say that there is $2,000 of cells in the vehicle that's not being used. Not being used if it was just for the standard range, that is. However, with 828 cells and the eventual 4680 efficiencies, 350 miles of range is not too far a stretch of the imagination. And we already know that consumers are more than willing to spend $66,000 on a 2170 long range with only 330 miles. Therefore, I think a $10,000 upgrade to 350 miles is likely about where we might expect it. And perhaps even a range upgrade in between to 310 miles for $5,000 or something. Well, whatever it is, you get the idea. There is perhaps $10,000 more profit to upsell on range and probably a bit more again on acceleration too. Anyway, let's say that perhaps a customer on average spends $5,000 extra on upgrades. Now, if you recall, we said the additional cells would have cost $2,000 and Tesla is profiting $5,000 extra. That's a profit margin of 60%. Therefore, it's very profitable for Tesla to offer software upgrades. But this is an economic show, so we have to cover everything, like opportunity costs. Just because Tesla are making great profits from these additional cells, that doesn't necessarily mean they are allocated the most profitably. So let's remove the necessity of having 828 cells in the battery for structure and open up the idea of perhaps 690 cells, which has been suggested in the past. Assuming that was enough cells for the structure, then that's 138 fewer cells required, or 1/5 the pack size. In other words, for every 5 828 cell battery packs Tesla make, they could make 6 690 cell packs, or obviously 20% more packs. If these 690 cell pack vehicles with probably about 280 miles of range sold for $60,000 and had 40% margin, then that would equate to an additional $24,000 gross profit per vehicle. However, the opportunity cost would only be 1/5, so that's $4,800 missed opportunity for Tesla by not selling vehicles with smaller batteries. So actually, when we subtract that from the potential profit of the software upgrades, then Tesla would make $200 more profit per vehicle. It's also less effort making 20% fewer vehicles too. But to be ultra thorough, then there really is no better customer to Tesla than an FSD customer. That is where the most profits will eventually derive, and each Tesla makes the same amount of profit on FSD, whether a 60 kilowatt hour battery or 80 kilowatt hour battery. Therefore, if we include FSD, then in the long run, Tesla is better off making 20% more vehicles. But that would also mean that Tesla only offers 280-mile range Model Ys from Texas, which I don't think will be the case. I think too many people will want a longer range version, which would then mean that it is likely best for manufacturing to limit the range with software. And then with all that pricing power that also gives Tesla, I would say overall it would be most profitable to limit the range with software. Eventually, we would expect a lower range rear-wheel drive LFP version to take up the lower end of the market for the Model Y. I would expect the 4680 to move on to longer range. It's accepted by every consumer that when you buy a car, you lose a lot of money on depreciation. Yet we keep buying new cars every 5 years or so, despite knowing this. Well, because we want to upgrade. We need the latest features. We want Bluetooth connectivity, USB-C chargers, and every other latest feature. Of course, with a Tesla, it will update itself with the over-the-air updates. Therefore, you don't need to upgrade your car to the latest features. Your existing car downloads them for free. Therefore, that budget you had for a new car upgrade, well, it could instead be used for an existing car upgrade, i.e. your existing car goes from a range of 280 miles to 350 miles. Okay, that's all very interesting. I guess it mainly comes down to whether the 4680 pack has the ability to remove cells or not, or whether they are fixed with a minimum of 828 cells for structure. Either way, I think software limiting the range is good for consumers and good for the business. You may look at it as Tesla being greedy trying to take profits, but although Tesla do not have a demand problem, they do have a supply problem. This definitely gives them more control in managing the supply issue with price and product value, offering the most value to the most customers, whilst upsetting the fewest. But of course, in turn, funding the mission the best too, which is what it really comes down to. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.